Now, sort of moving on to, say, decision making under pressure. Obviously, that's difficult. Any thoughts on that, and about this whole idea of intuition and developing expertise? What do you think, Paul?
Well, I mean, that's a huge area, developing expertise and decision making and intuition. I mean, intuition is often a misunderstood construct. Intuition is really about pattern recognition and picking up cues in your environment. And there are obviously people do make decisions using intuition. Sometimes people make decisions analytically, and sometimes it's a mix of both. But intuition is not some sort of mystery, special skill. Often people will explain a decision through intuition when actually it's just because something came to them. They had something came into their consciousness after some subconscious intuitive process was going on, and they got some insight, and it just popped into their consciousness. That they don't have any. You can't look into an unconscious process, because by definition, if you did, it would then be conscious. But intuition is pattern recognition and seeing certain cues. Now, there are certain contexts and decision-making environments that are conducive to intuition, and others aren't. So in the intuition literature, they call them kind and wicked environments. So a kind environment is where you will have repeatable patterns, because you can only develop intuition if the similar patterns repeat, and then you can start to pick them up. That's why you can develop intuition in the medical profession. People looking at scans, expert radiographers will pick up things that novice radiographers will miss. There was research into neonatal nurses who could detect that babies were unwell before any medical diagnostic could sense it, because they're noticing certain things in their environment which repeat, and they've been doing it for a long period of time. They can't necessarily directly access this, but that's what's going on. If you're working in an environment which is characterized by randomness or huge complexity, then intuition is much less valid, or possibly even not possible. That would be what's called a wicked environment, because you can't learn from it. If you if an environment just has randomness, then there's no repeatable pattern. You can't learn, and you can't develop intuition, because you can't pick up those cues. And so some different decision-making contexts allow for intuition versus others, and intuition tends to be a quicker type of decision making. Obviously, I know you're familiar with the work of Kahneman. So he has, I think it's important to always, Kahneman's book Thinking Fast and Slow is like, everybody who's interested in decision making has read that book. It's a very celebrated book. But when you consume information, it's always important to think, like, what am I not being told here? What are the belief systems and assumptions that the author is making that aren't being articulated? So Kahneman is inherently skeptical about intuition. So he will look, or in his research, he looks for environments where intuition doesn't work. Another researcher, very well, equally well known in decision-making literature, is Gary Klein. But Gary Klein is a big fan of intuition, and he finds that intuition is very helpful. Well, it's not surprising, because Gary Klein researches environments where intuition is valid. So, as I said, the medical profession, firefighting, whereas Kahneman looks in areas where intuition will make us fail, and it's because the environment lends itself to that. And I think that's a good example of thinking critically about what we're consuming, what we're being told, and not so deferring to an authority about a particular topic, because they won't tell you what their assumptions are in the book, because that won't sell the book. But good stories sell the book.